and what's more valuable than land, right? So I think that's phenomenal. And I think, the fact is, if you're always moving in the way of servitude, that you can never, lose. My father always taught me, since I was young, you can do well by doing good. And so, yeah, so as long as you know that, you're going to be financially taken care of, but you take care of the people first. And that's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because in the Bible, it talks about living in this space of like exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ask for or think of, right? So when we think about that, I think about that in our lives. I feel like we settle far too often. We settle for the status quo because that's how everyone else does it, and that's how it was done before us. And my thought now is so different because I'm like, well, why? I do question things a lot. I think I ask a lot of questions. Well, why does it have to be that way? Why do I have to settle for this when it doesn't bring me fulfillment? I believe that we should feel fulfilled. And I don't think it's just a monetary thing. I think monetary obviously opens up opportunity for us to experience things. And I think it's important. It's not everything, though. Right. I think you should have enriched friendships, enriched relationships, experiences in life. All of those things are important. And I think that we're all deserving of those things. And once we realize that, that's when you start to see people, you're like, oh, they get it. They got it. Because all of the successful people in the world tap into that. And when they tap into it, you start to see people move differently.
Yeah. When we think about success, what we know is that's an actionable step. You don't just come into the world successful. No, you have to do the work to make sure that you get to that space. Now, yes, some individuals might be a little bit further down the path because they've been provided, the education or the money or whatever it is to be able to get there. But there is still something to say about actually hustling and making sure that you have the grit that you need to get there, because you can't be lazy and be successful. And I think what you're showing too is that the work, the intentionality behind the work is there, and that you have a vision. And, going back to vision and talking a little bit about that, when you said, okay, I'm going to open up my brokerage, how did you sit down with yourself and say, this is going to be my vision, but not only is this going to be my vision, but I'm actually going to bring people along with me and have them understand that I own this vision, but you're a part of the vision and now you own it too.
Okay. Yeah. It was a lot of, it really goes back to the vision that I was given. And I said, okay, I realized that I couldn't do it by myself. But that being said, there was a lot of work that had to be done between the time that I started 3.5 years ago until now. I really had to be extremely intentional and focused on what the goal was, which was to open up a real estate brokerage. So at the very beginning, when I got licensed, I knew I was going to be a broker owner. I knew that it was going to be a nationwide brokerage. I knew that I would become the largest African-American owned brokerage in the nation at some point in the future. I know that that's going to happen because that is the goal. But I also knew that it was going to take a lot of work at the ground level for me to lay the foundation. And so I was really committed. And I was very careful and protective of sharing my vision. I did not share the vision with many people for many years because when I initially got into the business, someone asked me, oh, well, what is your plan when you first become an agent? You trainings and say, oh, where do you see yourself? The high level question that everybody asks. No, I'm going to be a broker. And I'm going to be, oh, honey, you have to crawl before you can walk. I would get that a lot. And then I realized God said, you can't share the vision with everyone. Right. And so he sent me a couple of people that I now say that they're my godsend, because I know for sure that these people were sent to help me execute the vision. And I'm super grateful for that.
I'm really excited that you said that. So for our besties that are watching or listening, if you have not watched the podcast yet with Laisha Bailey, where we talk about pivoting within your goal, that is a part of the conversation that we had specifically around goals, that you cannot share your vision with everyone. There are going to be people within your safe circle that have your best interests at heart, that are going to help you execute and be able to, move the train faster than you could by yourself, right? By creating trajectory and velocity and things like that. But the example that I used is, sometimes we get so excited about, we have this great idea and we know that we can do it. And then we go and we share it with the family or we share it with our friends, and they don't do it on purpose, but they kill your dreams.
Yeah.
They kill your dreams. And then you're left kind of feeling depleted or empty. And you're like, oh, well, is this really what I should be doing? And now you're questioning the vision that God gave you, when if you just kept it to yourself and actually done the actionable steps behind it, you wouldn't have those issues. So I love the fact that you say you cannot share your vision with everyone, because you have to have discernment about that too.
Yeah, you do. Because what happens is, and I don't think it's intentional, they speak their fears into your situation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the vision was given to you specifically to execute, not them. Right. I believe that we all have Jay-Z said, we all have our genius level of measure of talent. It's been given to us, each one of us. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that we've all been given a certain level of talent to do our specific thing. And so when we share, like, my measure of my gift looks different than your gift, right? But your gift is still just as valuable. It just is valuable in a different capacity. And I think that when you go to share your gift with certain people that may not have the capacity or the bandwidth to dream as big as you can dream, it's because that's not the vision that was given to them. And it doesn't make them any less. It just means that you have to be a little bit more protective until you're able to execute. And then over time, you'll see that they'll get on board too, because a lot of people don't want to see you fail. But then there's some people that hate too. I mean, I'm not going to move away from people that are haters. But yeah, I think more of it's about, because they can't see that vision for themselves, it's hard to see them. It's hard for them to see you with that vision.
And I think it also goes back to another conversation we had about the intersection of relationships and purpose and what you're doing within your career or business or things like that. But what you said reminds me of the thought about love when you're in relationships. And I think this is going to maybe help some people who understand this concept. I might say, Letrice, I love you. And Letrice might say, Amber, I love you. But what does love look like to Letrice? And what does love look like to Amber? And unless you're aligned on that, you can be thinking completely different things. And then when the rubber meets the road, you're like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't think we're on the same page here. And so, that's a part of the conversation, but it's also a part of, people can only love you to the capability that they can love themselves as well. And so a lot of times, right, we look for someone to show up in the way that we would, but we're different people, and there's other things that happen in their lives, and we have to understand that. And a lot of times we don't. So I think that goes back to the same thing with vision, where, there's different visions for people, but some people just do not have vision. Some people don't. And it's the truth. And being ambitious and understanding who's you're going to surround yourself with, that is another important mechanism that you have to understand. You have to surround yourself with people who have vision, because there's a lot of people who have lack of, that will never understand where you're trying to go and will never be able to undergird the work that you're doing. And it's not that they're even hating. It's just that they don't understand, because they'll never be in that space.
No, I think you're now that I would agree with. It's important who you choose to keep around you. So that is something else that I've learned in the last, I would say, 3 years. Probably the most painful part of this journey is that the people that started with me are not the people that are with me today. And I struggle with that sometimes. I struggle with, well, where are these people that I love to like my core? Because when
Mhm.
it was given to me, I was like, oh, we all will be at the top together. It doesn't work that way. Not everybody can go. And it's important to accept that. And then it's also important to identify who your tribe is. Who are
Mhm.
you keep around you that will encourage you, that will pray for you, that can understand business strategy, that has a good business acumen, that will not
Mhm.
speak death to your situation, right? There's so many things that you can get from key people, and you don't have to have a bunch, but you do, I would say, 3 or 4 solid people that you can call. And maybe you don't call each of them about everything, but I know that if I need some information on business strategy, I can call, person A. If
Yeah.
I need something on like my personal relationships, because today's a struggle in it, I can call person B. If I need prayer, I can call person C. Like,
Mhm.
being able to identify, having that emotional intelligence and understanding of how can I
Mhm.
leverage this relationship in this season, in this moment, from what I need, right? And be that person for other people too.
Well, that's the thing, it's really, you have a board of directors at the end of the day, and everybody has a seat to fill. And it's not a user relationship, but it's a symbiotic relationship. So
I like
they present things to you that you need for the success or the places that you're going. And then in turn, you provide X, Y, and Z for what they need. And there's nothing wrong with it as long as both parties are getting the same thing, right? They're putting in the same effort. And I think that's what you're saying. And I also love the fact that we got to, not everybody can go with you. Because I can use myself, for example, especially with relationships, friendships, things like that, whatever it is, I would always be like, but I want them to come with me, right? Like,
Mhm.
if I'm going there, like, I'm doing the work for me and I'm doing the work for them, and
Yeah.
we're going to get there, but the work is going to be done. And then, one day you wake up and you realize that you are the one that is doing all of the work to make sure that they come with you. Like, the saying, you're holding on to someone so hard that your hand is bleeding, right? So
Mm.
you're hurting yourself trying to bring them with you, and you just have to let that go. And it took a while for me to realize it. I felt like I would be abandoning people if I didn't bring them with me. And then I realized, to what you're saying, they can't come with you on this journey, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
it's actually okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, that's a whole nother conversation. I think we get it for a whole nother day, because especially when you think about success, you think about ambition and things like that. It is a toss up of where you are. It is a reprioritization of your time. It is an understanding of taking a appraisal of who is in your space, who
Mhm.
belongs there and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Because when you are an ambitious person, when you are working towards success, it takes a lot of energy. And you have to make sure that those that are receiving the energy from you deserve that as well, because you don't have a lot to give. Um,
Mhm.
so you
No.
have to be thoughtful. So all that to say, I'm excited for you in the next step. For our ambitious besties that are listening in or watching us today,
Mhm.
what would be one takeaway that you want them to be cognizant of? So let's just say they're, looking to launch something here in the near future, or they're working on something near and dear to their heart, and they kind of need that push to continue to go in the right direction. What would you say to them?
What would I say? I would say focus on the vision that you have for yourself and don't deviate from it. Don't allow other people to speak into your situation. Perhaps be very protective of the vision that you've been given, or the idea that you have, until you're able to birth it. And it's okay for you to bet on yourself. It's scary. And some people may say, that's crazy. Don't do that. But you really gotta double down and go all in. on what you see for yourself, because the vision that you've been given has been given for a reason. And I promise you, if you just double down,
Yeah.
your life could look so different. I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, I've watched my life change tremendously over the last 3.5 years, and it was because I chose to bet on myself.
I love that. I was actually just talking about that with Jessica Banks, who was another one that we had a conversation around, kind of her transition, and she was saying, you know, at the end of the day, it's betting on yourself, just like you said. What we know is, if nobody else is going to do it, we're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to find a way. And so I'll put it this way. Like, I would bet on myself, but I bet on you too, Letrice. My chips would fall on your square as well. And outside of me supporting you, you now have a whole cohort of ambitious besties behind you. We're excited to see where you're going to go for the next step. I know that you will, like you said, take over this world with a Langley Stone group. And I think that's just the first. Like, the best is yet to come, right?
There's so much more.
There's so much more. And that's my takeaway for you guys. There's so much more. Start with the vision. Understand, like Letrice said, the work that goes into it, and then just get started. Yeah. You know, Letrice said it took her 3 years basically to get to this space. And I said, it looks like it was overnight and you were just doing it very easy, but the work is in the background. 3 years were going to go by in Letrice's life anyway. So she might as well have done the work. And that's what I want for you. Do the work, figure out what your vision is, know what your North Star is, march towards that, and, you know, leverage individuals like ourselves to continue to be focused, continue to be successful. You have the ambition in you. If you didn't have the vision, it wouldn't work, but God gave you that vision on purpose. So Letrice, we are here clapping you on from, as we say, the bleachers, saying like, go girl, you got this. And we're excited to see the next steps. And we thank you for being here with us on Virgo Ambition today as well.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk